Tell me one thing, Burke. You're going out there to destroy them, right? Not to study, not to bring back, but to wipe them out.
Because just one of those things managed to wipe out my entire crew in less than 24 hours. And if the colonists have found that ship, then there's no telling how many of them have been exposed. Do you understand?
I ain't much for begging. Nobody ever gave me nothing. So I say, fuck that thing. Let's fight it.
Let's rock!
Perfect Organism, the Alien Saga podcast, is brought to you by the generous support of our incredible patrons. To learn more, please visit www.perfectorganism.com/support. Welcome to Perfect Organism, the Alien Saga podcast. I am your host, J.M. Prater, and this is our first entry into our Spotlight on Fandom series. And this first entry, I have my guest, Christopher Cooksey. I don't know what you prefer. And I met Christopher through getting a tour to ADI and interviewing Alec and Tom. And at the time, you were like, oh, it's kind of, I want to make sure that you really were like, I don't want to be, you didn't want to be really interviewed. You're really trying to kind of push ADI. So now here we are finally having an interview, and welcome to the show. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. And yeah, at the time, so I have worked social media on and off for Tom and Alec, and, I don't mind talking about that, but it's, when I'm working social media, it's always been important to me that, and to Tom and Alec, we had a discussion about this when I started working with them, that, I was representing Tom and Alec's voice. And so I wanted to make sure that there was nothing in the social media that would confuse people and make them think that I was, representing them. My job was specifically to make sure that their voice came through on the social media. And that I wasn't going around going, well, Tom and Alec said this, or, I work for Tom and Alec and I think this or something. I wanted to make sure that, my voice was a separate entity, and that their needs and their message were getting represented. And that's still, whenever I'm doing social media for ADI, that's still very important to me. But, today I get to kind of shine a little bit with Alec's blessing. So that's very exciting for me, and I'm really honored to be on your show. I love your show. Thank you.
Thank you for coming on. And really, I have to just kind of again thank you for really facilitating the meeting with Alec and Tom, and like you, following them. I mean, I remember seeing videos of them behind the scenes of Aliens when I was 14 and 15, and then there I was sitting next to them. In my opinion, because I love behind the scenes stuff almost as much or more than the films, these kind of godheads of practical effects sitting in front of me. I mean, I still can't believe, not that I'm starstruck, but these people, as you very well know, they're a part of a magic that was kind of cast a spell on our lives as children.
They changed our lives.
Totally.
We, those behind the scenes that they're in, definitely inspired me. And once you turn them off and go on with your day, their work is, and their thoughts on doing the work that they impart through interviews or behind the scenes, that stays with us, and it becomes like a fever. And then we have to build stuff, and we have to try making movies. So they ruined me.
Yeah, and what I love about them is they're accessible. They're not full of themselves. They're not distant. A lot of, sometimes in the world of filmmaking, everyone's in different places in their lives, and sometimes to even get an interview with people is very difficult. It's very hard. Not to say that it should be this easy thing, but, or sometimes people are like, well, I don't do interviews, or they look at you and they're like, well, you're nobody. Why would I talk to you? They weren't like that. They were really gracious and kind. And, obviously, wasn't as set up as I am now in terms of interviews, and you helped get a really great audio for that. So I'm really appreciative of what you facilitated. But let's get into it. Like, so how did you end up working for a time for ADI? How did that happen?
Well, boy, I mean, like you, I spent a lot of time watching behind the scenes, and, we're about the same age. So, before the time of DVD extras, there would be television specials about the making of stuff, or, you would, maybe take a trip to Universal Studios and take the tour, and there might be a thing about Rick Baker making Harry and the Hendersons, that animatronic head, and they would make a real big deal out of it.
That's still incredible. Oh my God.
Oh yeah. And so, I grew up, any chance I got to throw a VHS tape in the recorder and record a special, I would do that and watch it over and over again. If there was a making of Star Wars, or I very specifically remember, relating to ADI, when I first became aware of them, HBO had done a half-hour kind of making of coming attractions for Alien 3. And I was already a huge, on the autism aspect, Asperger's spectrum, obsessive fan of Aliens and Alien, and also, the Terminator movies and Predator and The Thing. And so this special came on, and I recorded it, and that was kind of the first time I became aware. And I told Alec about this because, the announcer was very, with gravitas, everything he said, special effects artist Tom Woodruff Jr. and Alec Gillis created, and I was like, and those movies stuck in my head. And I remember talking about them, and nobody knew what I was talking about. I was like, I said to my dad, yeah, this guy Alec Gillis. And my dad's like, no, Alec Guinness. He played Obi-Wan Kenobi. And I was like, no, you don't understand. And I just kind of get waved off, because I was immersed in this world, and I was watching, that recording of that half-hour special over and over again. And then Alien 3 came out, and I watched it, and, I was really, it was the effects that really stuck with me. I remember just, the corridors and that rod puppet. I know now a lot of people bag on the rod puppet, and some people mistakenly think that it is bad CGI. Yeah. Which it wasn't. It was, I think, a rather brilliant rod puppet, and I would like to see more rod puppets in movies. But the compositing technology has gotten better. I think, it could be done. But I actually went and found one of my friends had like a VHS camcorder, and I convinced my friends to go down into these like wash tunnels underground that are barred off and gated off. You're not supposed to be there, but we were trespassing and didn't even really realize we were doing anything wrong. So we went down there with this VHS camcorder, and we were setting off smoke bombs to get atmosphere, and we were trying to record stuff. And I was building like out of I remember I built out of a rubber skeleton, a rubber bat, some latex, and some Sculpey, and some macaroni for the tail. I built an alien rod puppet, which didn't work all that well. And I built all this miniature hive stuff using hot glue and drywall because my parents were doing some renovation.
That's
and I was like, and, after a bit, I mean, this is before I even knew what a fan film was, but I wanted to make my own alien movie. And I was really serious about it. But my friends, after a while, we're just like, oh, come on, it was fun to talk about, but nobody's going to do that. And I kind of found that was the prevailing attitude. A lot of people like this stuff and think it's fun, but don't think it's possible. So, and I spent a lot of years getting talked out of pursuing things by either my parents, who were very well-meaning, or other people who kind of just like waved it off, going like, oh, that's Hollywood stuff. Like Hollywood is this closed off area where you're like, it's almost like another civilization. You have to be born there to work there or something like that. But anyway, I flash forward to, I had a job at Lamps Plus doing Photoshop work, catalog compositing. At Lamps Plus, I used to go for walks every day. And somebody at Lamps Plus had said, oh, yeah, there's a special effects studio just down the street. And I kind of went, oh, that's cool. Maybe I'll walk past and see something. Well, one day I was walking past and the gate was rolled up and I looked and there was like an alien on the wall and a bug from Starship Troopers. And I was like, oh, this place is legit. So, then it kind of became a thing where I kept walking past, seeing what I could sneak a peek of. Then one day I'm walking and they are working on this, I think it was called like Little Nikita or something like that. It was like a giant rod puppet of this girl dialing a phone. It was like one of their second videos on their channel. But they were painting the head, and I guess they were painting it outdoors because they wanted daylight. And I saw it, and I was like, there's these guys I worked with, and I was like, oh, that's cool. I'm going to go get them. We're going to, so they can see this too. So I ran back, and we all went and kind of looked from a distance. And these guys saw us over there, and they started like waving us forward, like, yeah, no, come on, it's fine. You can come check it out, And it didn't click at first. So it was Tom and Alec there with
awesome.
some of their employees. But I didn't, I don't know why. I just didn't make the facial recognition at first. And then you said, well, you guys want to come inside and take a look? We were just finishing up work on the Thing prequel. And we were like, yeah, sure, okay, So they take us inside, and they take us into the showroom, which you've been in, and lots of people have seen in their behind-the-scenes, footage. And then Alec being framed with that behind him, and me realizing instantly where I was like, oh, holy crap. You're Alec Gillis. And that guy I walked past before was Tom. And he was super nice. He's like, yeah, here's my email. You can write me. I was like, I'm, aspiring filmmaker, that sort of thing. And he showed us some of the maquettes for the Thing. And then for a while, nothing. I'd write to him every once in a while, and he would respond with a short response. And, this comes down to the thing of like, people are busy. It's not that he was, waving me off or anything, but people are busy. When you're in the industry, there are a lot of people coming at you all the time. So you got to
read my script.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd like to work with you. Shout out on Instagram. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I have a lot of thoughts on that. And I've had a lot of encounters with celebrities, and people have told me about encounters with celebrities. I'm using this as an example because Alec wouldn't say he's a celebrity, or Tom.
Maybe a nerd celebrity.
Yeah, well. It's funny, but a lot of celebrities are kind of curt a lot of times, and I realize it's not because they're a-holes. It's just because they have a lot of people coming at them all the time, and they've got to kind of cap it off, or else they would just always be, So if you meet a celebrity and they're not 100% warm to you, don't take it personally. It's just it's kind of something they have to adopt. The ones that are really warm, I don't know how they do it. I couldn't imagine being anything more than warm to people, but I at the same time, it's like that's just my personality. So I don't know. Maybe I'm not cut out for that aspect of it. But with Tom and Alec, it was a surprise to them that they had fans. They thought it was just people like me who, watched behind the scenes, very rare. But when they opened up their YouTube channel, they had no idea they were going to get the flood of support.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Especially when it came down to, after the Thing prequel came out and everyone was disappointed in all the CGI, they didn't release that video for any other reason than to say, this is the work that we did. We're proud of it. We just want to leave it here so anyone that might appreciate it. They didn't expect it to get millions of views. And so the opportunity came along for, this story, but maybe people who haven't seen the movie or missed the Kickstarter. But essentially, that's how Harbinger Down came about. They had all these views on YouTube, and they had all these people saying, no, we do love practical effects, which again was a big surprise to them. They didn't realize that people notice the difference. They obviously noticed the difference, but they didn't realize that people cared so much about the quality of the effects. You know, from the point of view of a lot of producers, you know, the CGI was just, it was the new way to go. And so this outpouring of love for practical effects, you know, delighted them. And then I don't know the story. I wasn't there when they decided to do Harbinger Down. I had moved to Texas, and I opened up my Firefox browser and just happened to see them post like, hey, we have this Kickstarter. And I saw the video, the little test footage that they did, and Alec's pitch, and, you know, showing all the movies they'd done. And I looked at it, I went, this looks amazing. Of course, this has to happen. And then I looked at their social media, and I went, there's hardly any social media around this. Shouldn't there be like a blast, a campaign, something? And I reached out to Alec because I had his email, and I said, look, I don't have any money at the moment. I'm broke and unemployed. You know, my wife's working, but we don't have any money, but I can volunteer my time. Can that be my Kickstarter contribution? I'm looking at your social media, and there are a lot of things you can do to get the word out. And he accepted, and he put me in touch with some of his people because he was busy making the movie or trying to figure that out. So I ended up being one of the leads on the campaign, and I created, I reached out to a bunch of fans, and I said, hey, it's kind of like a radio street team. We were creating this Harbinger Down street team where we were just like blasting out, you know, going on, I was emailing horror sites. I was doing social media blasts. I was, and I ended up reaching out to someone, if you're on the internet in the nerd community, you might be aware of Comic Book Girl 19. When she first started out, I happened upon her channel early as she was kind of blowing up. So I was emailing her a little bit, not really like friends, but just going, I like your show, I like this episode, and she would respond before she got too big to respond. And I emailed her and I said, hey, you've been doing these shows on the Prometheus, when Prometheus came out, and she was kind of doing an analyzation of that, and she talked about how she liked practical effects. So I said, you love practical effects, you love these movies, why don't you interview this guy? And so she ended up doing this really great over hour-long interview with Alec, which she parsed down to 20 minutes, but at the end of that video, you can kind of click the link for the full interview. And then she ended up interviewing Lance Henriksen. So that was like a big thing for her, and the interview went well. And then her fans saw the Kickstarter, and, you know, I'm not going to say, I'm not going to take credit for the entire thing funding, because there were a lot of other people hustling to get, you know, big money pledges and that sort of thing. But collectively, we achieved the goal. And so I really felt like, you know, a part of this movie. For the first time as a fan, I got to be like, hey, you know, I was instrumental in the creation of this horror movie that I really liked. Anyway, it turned out well, in my opinion. I realize there's some people that don't like it, but I think they were comparing it to The Thing and to Aliens, and this was more of a Roger Corman low-budget movie. I was talking to the actor Bill Oberst Jr., and he said, yeah, you know, if people have a choice between, if you're going to make something that fits in with, like, you know, this huge multi-million-dollar blockbuster, and yours is under $1 million, people are going to compare them, and, you know, but I think the movie holds up well.
It's really well made. I mean, I was following the campaign. I remember even writing to I don't know where I wrote it, if it was on the campaign itself. And I was like, oh, I hope that they put a lot of effort, because I knew that they could do the effects, but I wanted the film to really be serious and, like, not tongue-in-cheek. They've never really made a film themselves that I was aware of. This was the first thing. And I remember wanting the film to be really serious, and it was serious. They took it seriously. It did feel a little bit like The Thing, but that was not on an accident.
Exactly. And Alec and Tom, actually, no, Tom doesn't, but Alec does. But it comes from a background of working for Roger Corman. And Roger Corman was, always doing kind of, his things weren't so much homages like Alex was. They were more knockoffs. But they were fun. If you watch Battle Beyond the Stars or Galaxy of Terror, it's like there was an element of low budget cheapness to them, and they kind of had that knockoff quality. But they were still always a good time to watch. I'll watch Galaxy of Terror or especially Battle Beyond the Stars. I actually loved Battle Beyond the Stars as a kid. I'll watch those and enjoy those now. And I would encourage anyone that watches the movie to kind of approach it from that end rather than trying to say, this should sit well with John Carpenter's The Thing or Ridley Scott's Alien. I do think that Alec, as a director, if given a budget, could be up there with them, but he had a small budget and he had a limited amount of time because he didn't. Probably, I hope I'm not getting this wrong, but my impression was that he had to write the script after the campaign funds were raised because he didn't know how much money he was going to get, and he had to kind of write the script accordingly, which is also a Roger Corman method, and it's also how I write scripts. I have access to this. I have access to this. I can't do this. That's too expensive. And so he wrote the script around that, and he had to do it in a bit of a hurry. Usually it takes years to get the right draft of a script, and he had to make good on his campaign promise. But I think he did a really good job. And what I really like about the script is, and I won't go into details of what, how I interpret the story, but knowing Alec like I do, I see a lot of Alec's soul in the script. And I think any good work of art needs to kind of come from a place that you look at that work and go like, yeah, that is inherently their work of art. Nobody would ever do it quite like that. And I do know Alec. This is the cool part. I think anybody who's a fan would love a story like this or love this to happen to them, and it did happen to me. After the movie was made, Alec and Kabil Balsamo, who starred in Harbinger Down alongside Lance, gave me a call and said, "We're going to be in Texas, where I lived at the time. We want to take you out to dinner as a thank you for helping us raise funds."
Wow.
And I was like, oh cool. Yeah. And I was in the middle of, okay, so here's the other thing. I decided after Harbinger Down was made, I looked at what they did, and I looked at all the behind the scenes that they had released and that sort of thing. And Alec had actually let me and a few other Kickstarter supporters send in design ideas. So we did some design work. They didn't get used, but we sent it in, and he looked it over and go, oh, I like this and this, and so there was always the potential it would, but like anybody who designs, the director goes in and looks and sort of thing. But anyway, I was so inspired by everything, watching them use reverse photography and make tentacles out of bubble wrap and use tricks like putting magnets under a table and putting magnets in the tentacles so that if you move the magnets under the table, the tentacles would slither across the table. So I was like, well, I have to make a movie now. I've got bubble wrap. I've got, cheap materials. I can do this. And so I was in the middle of making this movie when they said that. I had sets built in my garage. I had like styrofoam. And I was like, well, Alec, instead of taking us out to dinner, why don't you come over for dinner? That'd be a lot easier for us anyway, because it was like a school night and we had to deal with the kids. And so it's like, just come over. He said, okay, well, I'll bring barbecue and beer. So Alec and Camille came over with barbecue and beer to my house, sat at the table with us for hours, and we just chatted it up. And then I got to show them my creatures and my set and that sort of thing, and just generally geek out. And so it was there, and I guess is a good lead into the book. But I said, hey, I love those books like the H.R. Giger books and, Stan Winston School's books. I think I could put together a book, and very over optimistically, in a couple of months, making of Harbinger Down. And I fully expected him to go like, no. And he said, yeah, that would be great. So yeah, I was bowled over at that point. I forgot where I was going with that story, really. But
in terms of how the book came out and your process of that.
Yeah. So again, I wanted to make a book. First of all, I wanted an excuse to demand that every single set photo and behind the scenes photo gets sent over to me. You know, so they took thousands of photos.
I bet.
And you know, it was definitely, I think, with the aim that there would be some sort of behind the scenes, and there's a lot of behind the scenes video as well that went to the Kickstarter supporters, but it kind of became this visual master class in how to make a low budget film. And it took me a lot longer than I thought to put the book together. First of all, it ended up being about twice as long in page count as I thought it was going to be. And I decided, because I've done a lot of photo work, I wanted to color correct everything. I wanted to make sure that the photos were as vibrant and detailed as possible. A lot of photos were taken in the dark. So I'm actually have a lot of experience color correcting photos. So I color corrected everything. I did the page layouts, and then I kept writing questions to Alec, like, what's this? What am I looking at here? And Alec wasn't always available because he was working on other movies. He was working on It and Annabelle and Jurassic World 2 and that sort of thing. So he was really busy. So what I would do is I would write stuff with what I thought it was, and then I would send it to him and go, is this right? And he would go like, no, that's the wrong material, or, you know, this person's name is this, or no, that's not actually how we did it. We did it like this. So I'd then go and rewrite and correct. But essentially I got what I wanted to create, which was this book that if you're a fan, you get a behind the scenes look. If you're an aspiring effects artist or an aspiring filmmaker and want to know how to do this stuff, especially on a budget, you could look at it and get inspired. And that was the main goal, because like you and like myself, I wanted something that, you know, any person of any age, but a young person, I imagine my, you know, 12-year-old self getting a book like this and just flipping through it endlessly and getting ideas. And I really feel like I accomplished that. So, you know, now the book is out, and I'm very pleased with it. It covers, you know, the pre-production stuff like the drawings and artwork, and it covers the creation of the creatures, the miniatures. It also covers the building of the set, and then it covers shooting the film. So you've got on-set photos with the actors doing their thing, having fun. And then there is footage, or I'm using the wrong terms all over the place. There are photographs of the premiere. And then at the end, we've got some, I won't call them bloopers, but like, you know, people goofing around photos and that sort of thing. And then little bios on some of the main people who worked on the film that I wrote them. They're kind of silly, but just making sure that all these people who kind of also, a lot of them either worked for below their rates or some of them worked for free. Maybe, I'm not sure. Maybe I shouldn't say that. I'm not sure. I'm sure Alec usually finds a way to pay people, even if it's on a low budget. He's very good at not asking people to work for free. So, anyway, that's I kind of skipped over the whole thing of how I got hired by them for a while, which was fun. And I hope I get hired back. Like any business, when it's slow, they have to do layoffs. And then when it's, you know, picks back up, they bring people back on. But, yeah, I'm pleased with this book, and Alec is too. He's excited. I've been getting messages from people who worked on the film saying like, oh, I just got a copy. It's like having a yearbook of that time. Alec, actually, he sent me over some signed Blu-rays because he wants me to do through certain outlets to promote the book, do some Blu-ray giveaways.
Awesome.
So I would love to give one to one of your listeners.
Yeah, that would be great. Just tell us, or tell them what they need to do.
Well, I tell you what, we'll do this. Okay, so at the time of this podcast, I'm sure this podcast will be tweeted on Twitter, right?
Yes.
So let's do this. When you tweet out the podcast, you'll tweeted out with the instructions of retweet this with the hashtag Harbinger Down and the hashtag practical effects. And then after a few days, I won't name a date here because I'm not sure when this will air, but I'll pick a winner and I'll mail you a Blu-ray copy of Harbinger Down signed by Alec Gillis. And that way we're getting the word out about the book, which I love, and somebody can enjoy the director's commentary and the director of photography commentary from Ben Brown. He talks all about filming the set and lighting the set. So there's some really great commentaries in there. Comes with a lot of passion. You know, this movie comes from a place of passion, which is very important to all of us.
Yeah, though that's awesome. I mean, we are all here in many ways because we're passionate about something. And for you and I, we're passionate about, well, many things, but certainly back in those days when we were at home with our VHS player and we're watching a video and we're seeing Tom and Alec or whatever. Yeah, I mean, really, that's why we're here. That's why we do what we do.
And I should say, too, as far as Tom and Alec go, I think the reason that they're so accessible and the reason that they're so, into their fans, it's not an ego thing. I want to be very clear about that. I've gotten to know Tom and Alec pretty well, especially Alec. These are people who love their fans, not because they're like people coming up to them and telling them how great they are. They love the passion because they have that passion too. And I think that that's really the thing that got me doing this stuff for Tom and Alec, why they've trusted me at times with their social media and they trusted me to do this book is, I'm legitimately passionate about this work and they are too. And when you talk to them, it's not just like, tell me how great I am. Or, remember that time where I did that brain bug for Starship Troopers? That was pretty good. No, it's nothing like that. It's like they have such enthusiasm when they take on any job, like, oh, isn't this cool? Oh, look what happens when we do this. Or we tried this out and it didn't work, but then we tried this. It's like they feel just a genuine excitement for creating these effects. So to be in the company of anybody who also feels that excitement is it's as wonderful for them as it is for the fans, and they're very, they're kind of salt of the earth, blue collar type of guys as well. So, they're not into the whole, like, look at how great I am thing. They really, like, every time I've been in their company, it's like, if it's time to get down to business, they are all business, but when it comes to that enthusiasm, you can count on that from them every time. They really love this and they really do love meeting all of their fans, and that's why they love doing videos, or interviews. I think they're completely bowled over still that people care about this stuff in the way that they do. So when they have time to do interviews and that sort of thing, they're as grateful to be to have people coming to them to want to talk to them as you are to being able to come into the shop. I was sorry, I had to bail. I think I had to pick my kid up from school. Yep. So I don't know how much more time you had in the shop.
Well, it was kind of cool because you left and then Alec was with me the whole rest of the way, and he was like, hey, yeah, go over here, do this, do what you need to do. And I did. And again, it was just a really surreal full circle moment to be in the company of Alec Gillis again, not because I think he is this, oh my God, he's this God. He's someone who has inspired my imagination, and to be in that company, knowing that he's been next to Sigourney Weaver, who is my space mom, it was just really humbling. It was it just felt like a blessing to have that opportunity, because there's thousands of people out there who love special effects, who are in groups as you and I are, and very few of us get the opportunity to meet some of our heroes. And that's what I think of them.
That's funny. I always have a joke with Alec, because Camille, I think at one point, Alec, we were having a conversation, Camille, Alec, and myself, and Alec said something, and it just went awry, and Camille laughed at him and said, never meet your heroes. And I joked with him. I was like, he's not really a hero. He's just a role model. But no, I mean, honestly, I will definitely say this about the experience of working for them. First of all, every time I went into that showroom, it never got old. Especially to have Sigourney Weaver kind of smirking, on one side. They've got that life cast, and Alex story is she was kind of smiling when they did the life cast, so it came out, so they just left it in there for that. But you go into that showroom every single time, and they're always rearranging it and putting new things in it, sort of thing. I don't know if Pennywise the Clown was there when you were there.
Yes, he was. Got a
okay,
photo.
Cool. That Pennywise, man, the work is so good, because you see things like, you see toy companies and replica companies do like, oh, here's a release of our Pennywise, and you think of the Pennywise they did in the showroom, and it looks like he'll start talking at any second.
Oh yeah, terrifying. As is the doll on the rocking chair.
Oh, the Annabelle doll,
yes.
On the rocking chair. So you go in there, and every single time I go in there, I remember seeing that showroom on TV, as if it was looking into another dimension, and then suddenly you're actually there. It never got old, and I would always walk through the shop, and I was always, sometimes you couldn't help it. I tried to be careful not to bother the people while they were at work. But and then I look on social media, and like I think you mentioned before, constantly you have people going, oh, it's my dream to work there. Oh, I would do anything to work there. I'd pay to work there. And I was like, wow, here I am doing work for Tom and Alex. It's not effects work. It's, I did some editing for them, and I did a lot of their social media, and I got to be, arrange interviews and that sort of thing, and show up for interviews. And as far as, people like you go, again, I was a fan before I got to do all this stuff. And that means that I was on social media chatting with the fans, chatting with, Monster Legacy, with Perfect Organism, with AVB Galaxy. And you guys, shared my enthusiasm. So when I got the job, and they said to me, well, what can we do to, up our social media presence? You guys were the first people that I thought of. I was like, hey, I gotta reach out to these guys and go like, hey, I'm in. You guys got to come in too, because I know if the roles were reversed and someone reached out to me and said that, I would be completely jazzed, So it made my day being able to be the guy that kind of like facilitated realizing what I'm sure is a dream for a lot of people. So it brought a lot of joy to me.
Totally.
And that's why I do this stuff. It's like, yeah, I'm trying to sell a book, but I did the book out of passion. And I really, like I said, I want it to be the kind of thing that sits on a shelf with your H.R. Giger books, your Stan Winston books, and any behind the scene books that you collect that you can just flip through and, go like, this is so much fun. So
for those of us who are going to buy the book, including myself, where do we go and get it?
Okay. So, it's on Amazon. It's available in paperback, it's a print on demand thing that Amazon does, because I couldn't do, an actual print run. Or it's available on Kindle, and I created a tiny URL link. I guess there's that bit.ly or something. Somebody created a bit.ly thing. Stan Winston School created a bit.ly link, so I'll look for that too. But tinyurl.com/making Harbinger Down is what I chose. So if you type that in, it'll take you to the book. And I'm hoping to do more books now that I've done this one. I don't know if I'll do more with ADI, but I have my own movie, The Quantum Terror. After I'm finished with that, I'd love to do a book that's kind of the same, that shows how I did it in my house and in my garage, and how other people can do it too. And maybe I'll kind of dip my beak into doing some like how-to books or something like that, all based around filmmaking and low-budget effects and that sort of thing. So I hope you'll check that out too, and follow me on social media. You mentioned Christopher Moonlight is like Christopher Moonlight Productions. That's like my production name. So if you search Christopher Moonlight, you'll generally find me. I go by Christopher Cooksey, but I've created, I don't know what I was thinking. It's kind of like created confusion and that sort of thing. But I wanted to do something something
that's a good name though.
Oh, thanks. Well, I wanted to do something that stood out. You don't remember Christopher Cooksey. You remember Christopher Moonlight.
I do, totally.
Yeah. So it's kind of like the production company name. But if you generally search Christopher Moonlight, you can find a lot of this stuff. And I have a podcast too, which I should actually have you on as well. Maybe
I know we talked about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I should get you, because I like to do like guest hosts and that sort of thing. But I have 2 podcasts all on my YouTube channel. One is The Practical People, which is interviewing practical effects artists. I interview Alec, and I've interviewed people like Jordu Shell, Steve Johnson, Neville Page, Shannon Shea, Makeup Effects Group, Odd Studio. I've been really lucky that so many people have said yes to me.
Yeah, and I love Odd Studio. We interviewed them for Perfect Organism. Adam Johansson and Creatures Inc. guy he was there too. Oh my God, I'm forgetting his name. I always do. I always remember Adam Johansson. Great guys, so kind, much like Alec and Tom. So accessible. They don't have airs on them. They're just real people, you know.
Yeah, and that's what I found about a lot of practical effects people. I really haven't interviewed anyone who was full of themselves. You know, they're all just kind of like really grateful to be doing this and having a good time. And then I kind of expanded the show as well to interviewing. I did another one called Household Filmmaking, where I interview other professionals, actors, directors, even distribution companies, like all aspects of filmmaking, that sort of thing. But yeah, I've got to have you on as like a co-host, because I think it'd be fun. It's always better to have someone kind of like to banter back and forth with, you know, when it's just me and the other person. Sometimes it can become difficult to keep the conversation flowing. I mean, totally. I'm very talkative, but I don't want to make the shows all about me. I want to let them talk.
Then you have to like do magic and editing and like make it flow better and cut the spaces out.
Yeah, edit out all the times I try and ask a question and then completely flub it, and they go like, I don't understand what you're asking me.
Yeah.
And so I go, let me rephrase that and then cut that whole bit out. But yeah, it's been really wonderful. I got to interview, I've got more interviews coming up, but I got to interview the actor Bill Oberst Jr., who's going to be in Rob Zombie's 3 from Hell. And he and I share a passion for Ray Bradbury. So we really hit it off, and I think that was a great episode. And I interviewed Camille Balsamo from Harbinger Down, and Val Merrick, who's the co-creator of Howard the Duck. I just, just saying this stuff out loud, I realize just how lucky I am to be able to interview so many great people. And, not only that, but, I kind of, this may sound silly, but I kind of consider the people who do podcasts like yours to be kind of celebrities too. It's like, I mean, obviously you're walking down the street, no one recognizes you, but at the same time people know who Perfect Organism Podcast is. People know who like Mr. H Review and Alien Theory and AVP Galaxy. If you're a fan, you guys are at the forefront. And I really think that, studios like Fox should be reaching out to you guys more often, because I don't think they realize just how much what you do is driving a lot of the fandom, is kind of keeping the discussions going and keeping the interest going and finding all the wonderful minutia in these films that most people just go to the movies, they watch it, they enjoy it, and then they go on with their lives. But the fans, I love film analysis. I love hearing about, even if there's an Alien or Predator movie that I don't like, and I'm very finicky.
Me too.
I still love hearing aspects of why people do like them. It's like I enjoyed Prometheus, but I understand there are things about it that I go, no, that's wrong. And most of the Aliens movies I have big problems with, but I still watch them and enjoy them because everybody's had these different ideas about them. And so to have people who dedicate shows to analyzing these films, it helps me too as a filmmaker. I think about what you guys say and incorporate that into my thinking when I'm trying to create something, because I don't want to create crap films. I want to create, even if I'm working on low budget, I want to create movies that people watch and go, this guy gets it. This guy understands why I love what I love and has created something that speaks to that. You know, because I don't, you know, we all have felt that disappointment of going to see a sequel to something and going like, this is going to be so good, and then going, why did they do that? It's almost like you just
Totally.
go, why did you make that choice? That choice just takes away from everything, you know, that anyway, I could ramble on. I have so much to say, you know, about filmmaking and about these franchises that we love, and I'm really hoping that Alec gets to show you guys some of his other projects soon.
Yeah, that one has been announced that we can say that they're working on. I think they talked about it at Comic-Con, and I think Alec is directing, and it's starring, I can't remember her name right now.
No. Alec is not directing. Alec is producing.
Okay.
So yeah, ADI's next project is called Wellwood. They're not the only producer on it, but it's a Studio ADI production. It stars Keisha Castle-Hughes and Camille Balsamo and Reed Cullums. Reed and Camille were in Harbinger Down. Yeah, it's I forget who the director is, but it's she's directed for Funny or Die, I believe. And she's friends with Camille. I think Camille is a producer on it as well. But it's this really cool science fiction story. I can't say anything about it because I don't know what they've said, but it's going to be good. And I got to see some effects work for it. They shot it in Louisiana, and I'm really excited about it. And I know the experience of working on Harbinger Down was educational for everybody. So, you know, I think that this is going to be like the next step. You know, everything's going to kind of evolve forward from there. So I'm really excited about that. And Tom and Alec, you know, they've got other projects that I see them working on, and they keep having to put them on hold because they have to do work for other movies. But I hope they get to show those too, because these guys are, you know, they're stepping into new territory again out of passion. They don't do this. I think they've always wanted to be directors, and I've heard them say this themselves. So I don't think I'm overstepping my bounds in saying that when they first started an effects company, they really thought that they were just going to go forward and be directors and maybe do some effects work on the side to, you know, fill in the gaps. And then they just kept getting work. You know, they did Tremors, they did Alien 3, and then it kind of kept going from there. But these guys are both really good directors, and they've directed second unit stuff. So it's not like they don't have experience directing. I really want to see Studio ADI personally go forward and make a bunch of movies and hopefully involve me in some of them. But I mean, they're just fantastic people, and they're doing fantastic work, and you know, that it even now after 30 years, because they just celebrated their 30th anniversary of
crazy.
Yeah, of creating all of this stuff. You know, it's no small thing to, you know, step outside of your comfort zone. They could have easily just stuck with what works, or, you know, set up a CGI division and you know, kept going from there. They, you know, they're being, I think, very bold, putting themselves out there, and they're doing it out of passion. And that's why I hang out with them too, because if they weren't passionate about it, it wouldn't, you know, the status is nice, but it's not enough. You know, I don't want to waste my time with people who aren't passionate, who aren't willing to take risks, put themselves out there. And there's this really great quote. I've been thinking about this a lot. If I may indulge in a little bit of philosophical banter here for a second. It's I keep it on my phone, and this is for anybody who is wanting to make films or make art in any kind of way. And it is a quote from Star Trek: The Next Generation. And it's Q talking to Picard. He says, "It's not safe out here. It's wondrous, with treasures to satiate desires both subtle and gross. But it's not for the timid." I keep that in mind all the time, because anybody who's following from a place of passion is taking a risk. If it was easy or without risk, everybody would be doing it. You have a passion inside of you for whether it be practical effects or filmmaking or all of the above, painting, making music, anything that is not conventional. You know, there are a lot of people who want to do it and fail, and it could quite possibly be that you're among those people. But if you're persistent, you come from a place of passion, and you're brave, you will have some measure of success. And I think even though I'm definitely not in the area of being a rich director yet, or you know, a practical effects artist or a publisher of books or whatever it is, I consider myself very successful. I've gotten in with people who are passionate, and that I include you among those people, not just Tom and Alec, but I've gotten myself into a group of people who care about the things the way that I do. And, you know, I get to interview other great people, and I've got to work in the past with some other people that I've admired, like Ray Bradbury. And that I even have a story about Stan Lee that I can't tell because of an NDA. But there's a measure of success there that through passion and through persistence and through hard work I've accomplished. And I think I'm going to keep going forward that way. And, you know, maybe that's fandom, maybe that's obsession, but I don't think any of it's specifically, some of it's luck for sure. But you know, luck is an opportunity that you can pass by as easily as anything else. So, you know, anybody out there listening, you know, I hope that this book I've created is that kind of fuel for your fire. That's really what I meant it to be, and that's, you know, the place that I was creating it from. So, you know, that's for everybody. Who has that passion, is willing to take that risk, and will fail at times, and will dust yourself back up and keep going.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, to end this, tell us how we can find your podcasts and your channel.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, thank you. I forgot about that. Yes, I have a Patreon. It's patreon.com/Christopher Moonlight. If you go to any of the videos on YouTube, you can find the link, or PayPal if you want to be a one-time donor. I'm always very grateful for that. And of course, you know, when you buy a paperback copy of the book, you're helping to support me as well. And I think that's, you know, true for anybody's art that you love. You know, if you know, there's all these ways to support artists. I think there are memes about it. If you can afford to buy something from them, buy something from them, because that keeps them going. And if you can't, then, you know, just give a retweet or a comment or a like, you know, or leave a review on a book or something. All those things help. You don't have to, you know, talk them up. Just be honest. If you like their work, you know, I think that kind of thing also comes from a place of passion, and that sincerity is what helps those artists. So yes, so I have patreon.com/Christopher Moonlight, and I have ChristopherCooksey.com, which I'm working on at the moment. We artists are always busy with something. I think we have one chink in our armor. It is that we are doing too many things at once.
Amen to that.
But thank you again for having me on the show, and I want to say thank you to all of your listeners for you know, you guys are what we do this for. If we didn't have an audience, we'd be working in a vacuum, and that's no fun at all. So thank you for making this so much fun.
Absolutely, sir. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate it, as I'm sure everyone else does. We love these kind of, I do at least. I love the curtain being pulled back to kind of see kind of the intricacies of our dreams and what's made the things that have inspired us. You can't. That's why I consider people who like Tom and like Alec, who I consider them heroes, because people that inspire me are my heroes. So I consider I appreciate it and everything that you've done.
Oh, thank you. And I know Tom and Alec would thank you. And I'm sure I'll be back that way in California, because I'm in Arizona now. But there will be other opportunities to interact with them in ADI, I'm sure.
Awesome. Yeah.
So, yeah, thank you again.
All right.